Okay, so I'm not really known for doing FMC, but I do it on and off, and I've always been sub 30, but I sort of decided recently to give it a bit more time, and thanks to Fabio, I've been able to actually finally learn how to do domino reduction and a bit of half-tone reduction as well. I've got him to thank for actually being able to figure out how to do these things, but have been able to, because of that, get a sub 26 mean. It's actually 25.33, and I'd like to go through my solutions. So here we go. Okay, this is the first scramble. It's actually the inverse scramble, which is where I did my whole solution up to HTR. And yeah, so obviously this starts with EO. I did EO on this axis, and so bad edges, we've got this and this. We've got this one, we've got this one, and yeah, that's it. So they're in these positions, and I looked at quite a few ways of doing this. Wait, sorry, hold on. I've been silly. Yeah, it's these two, and these two, and this. What am I doing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 bad. Sorry. I did the attempt yesterday. So I did an alpine, and that changed the orientation of 4 edges, so I made 3 good and 1 bad. So that's this one's bad now. And so we can now do a B to put this one here, F2, and then you can do R prime. I did R here. And so that's EO. Now we're at DR minus quite a lot of pieces right now. So I just did 2 moves like this, and that oriented a bunch of pieces. So it's good to play around with doing 1 or 2 extra moves. You don't want to do a lot, because in general you want to be at, well, it's called RZP when it's close to a trigger, and you want to be there in 5 or 6 moves in general. So if we look at this, what we've got here, we've actually got a pretty easy case. So it's uncommon, but when you get it, it's three corners that aren't DR'd and 2 edges, which is these 2. So what we want to do is basically set up to something like this, because that's 3 corners. So I'm going to do F2 to start off, and what that does is, you see this pattern, it looks like I'm inserting a pair, and then that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to just insert sorry, we're going to bring this here so this is oriented, so I can just insert this like that, and that's got me to domino reduction. So from here, you need to know how to solve the corners. So I'm going to get that up on another cube. So in this corner case, we've got all sorts of bars all over the place. We're ignoring this, by the way. And what you can notice is, if you do 2 moves like that, we're in this case where we can go and, well, we can pair things up in a few moves. There's very few quarter turns, so I was thinking of ways I could solve corners. So I could start with U prime R2, so that's a quarter turn, and then if I do something like D2, R2, D, R2, D, so it's like 3 quarter turns, and you'll solve all the corners. And funny enough, it kind of solves all of the edges as well. So that actually makes half-tone reduction. Anyway, my corner solution was pretty similar to that, really. So I did U prime R2, which makes this. I did D2, B2. So we've made all these bars, and U R2 U prime. Well, U R2 U, sorry. It solved all the corners, but what it was left me with was a bunch of edges unsolved. Now this is a bad example of HDR, because all I was doing was seeing if I could solve the corners, and it ended up accidentally doing HDR. But I'll show you in a later solve how it works. But effectively what you want to do is sort of follow roughly the path you would do to solve the corners, but try and add similar DR based things and set up to cases like this, or like a single move, but just in the way that you would solve your corners, because in that way, and you got to take the same amount of quarter turns as it would take to solve them, and usually you can find a way that will work out for each other. Anyway, at this point, for some reason I switched back to the normal. We've got quite a lot of unsolved pieces, but we can also make quite a lot of pairs by just doing like F2, B2. And I was sort of just messing around trying to find some way of solving and just leaving a very small amount of pieces. Oh, and I got to here in what? So it was an 11 move DR, and then 7 more moves to HR. So I got to HR in 18 moves. Anyway, I switched to the normal. It looks basically the same on the normal. I really don't know why I switched to the normal. It doesn't really make much sense. Anyway, so I did F2, B2, and it sort of made this, which just looks close to solved. And then I did R2, puts this down here, U2, D2, R2, and it leaves 2E, 2E. I don't want to insert it here. This will be really hard to solve from there, but I want to do insertions. So let's go. Okay, so there's this point in the skeleton where I found this. So keep in mind the move after this is a D2. So I want to solve this 2E, 2E in a way that ends with a D2. Now that sounds weird because the way you'd think of it is like this. But I knew you could like do stuff like this. And so I was just looking for a way to do that, and that ended up being the best. So you can do L2, D2, R2, U2, R2, D2. And you can literally move those. So I think what I saw was D2, L2, D2, R2, U2, R2 first. And I just shifted the L2 onto the front, but since it's 2E, 2E, you can shift those moves. Like, for example, it's L2, D2, R2, U2, R2, D2. But if I was to start from the R2, I could do R2, U2, R2, D2, R2, D2. I could do U2, R2, D2, L2, D2, R2. You can shift about any way you want. So from there, I did that. And the 2 moves afterwards were D2, R2, U. So that was 6 moves I inserted, but it cancelled out 5. So I only added 1 move to my solution. And so at this point, I had a 25. However, when you look at the 25, I have this sequence. So the reason I could see that it was shortenable, it starts with U2, D2. And so that's like an E2 slice. So those are good things to look for. And so what I did, it was U2, D2, R2, U prime, R2, U prime. So what I did was I just undid that. U, R2, U, R2, U2, D2. Now, here I have this on like a solved cube. I can see it's just 5 moves. So replace that sequence of 6 moves with those 5 moves, gives me a 24 move solution. Okay, later that day, we did this FMC with Fabio on voice chat. So here, if we look at this axis for EO, we've got 4 bad, just these 4. So did the very simple D2, B2, L. Oh no, hold on, am I looking at the wrong FMC attempt? Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong FMC attempt. Alright, apologies for that. I actually got the wrong... I got the wrong scramble because we do all these all the time. It's actually last night. This was a fairly interesting one, to be fair. It wasn't the best insertion, but you know, it will do. And I didn't use HGL on this one, so we got 6 bad on all 3 axes. I ended up doing this one on the red-orange axis. And so I can reduce it to 4 bad by just doing L. And then I switched to the inverse. So we'll do L prime and then the inverse scramble. I don't really write the inverse scramble, I just do all the normal scramble moves backwards. It can take a second to get used to at the start of the attempt, but it gets easy from there. So from here we can just do U2 F prime, and then I did R, and that leaves me with edge orientation on this axis. Well, no, it doesn't. I might have mis-scrambled there. So we've got L prime. I'm reading this from a distance, but I've done this. We've got U prime, F prime, R. There we go. That looks better. And yeah, that is EO. So that was a 4-move EO, and I actually managed to find a 9-move DR. Sorry, a 10-move DR off of that. So again, we've got a pretty bad number of corners oriented. So I did 2 moves like that, and we actually end up with this set up really easily. We just do D2. Again, we've got 3 corners and 2 edges. Just do an RUR prime like that. And here we are in domino reduction again. And then from here, I had this massive block, so I paired this up. And from here, I just kind of wanted to make more blocks. So U prime F2, and then we have this corner and this U R2. We've got this edge here, so we did U, and then I can pair this with this block and move this to its spot by doing F2, R2, F2, and that just leaves 3 corners in 19, and there was no cancels on any part of the skeleton, so I just put an 8 mover right at the start of the solve. Ended up giving me a 27. Okay, so I did this one when I got home from work today, and this one was actually just a linear solution on the normal scramble completely. So you can see what sort of things you can get with this are. So we've got 2 bad edges on this axis. So we could do 3 moves like that, although I couldn't find anything good off that. So I did U2, and then I did BL B prime, and look, we're already in DR minus 4E4C. And then I did I believe, like, what is it, 12-move DR off this, but it kind of worked out. So you want to set up to a single move for these cases, 4E4C. So I did, firstly, to make we want to make 2 lines basically, because you sort of got this line and this line. So we've got these 2 corners, so I did U F2 B2, and then if you look where the other ones are in relation, oh sorry, I'm wrong. We had this case we set to I2 R prime. Anyway, it's really simple now, so we just need to do DU2, and we're set up into this case just I2 R prime. So you want to have this line, this bar lined up, and this lined up. You can do I2 R prime. Anyway, we're now in this state. Now, a good thing to think about if you're struggling with DR, let's look at this case. You don't have to solve the corners, you just have to get them into a DR state. So this is solvable in 2 quarter turns. We can do R2U, R2U prime, R2. And this solves, most of this layer solved, and then like these 2 swap in the back like that. So we can do sort of the same thing on this scramble, which is all diagonal, but these 2 wouldn't want to swap in the back. So if I did, it would solve DR corners in 2 quarter turns. So we know we've got a 2 quarter turn DR right here. So let's think of an HJR. So we would be starting with an F2. So let's try F2 on here. Let's see what we've got. Okay. If we look on this axis, we've got how many we got? 4 corners, 2 edges, like the case we started with a DR in. So let's see what we can do. We need to do 2 quarter turns. I think I did D2 R2, and that actually sets up to a trigger. And then from there, it's just 3 more moves to finish it off. Well, 4 more, sorry. I did L2 because if you look at this angle, that sets up the same thing. And then we did U, L2, U prime. And here we are in half-tone reduction. And you can tell this is half-tone reduction. We've got all diag bars, or if you like if we did U2, F2, R2, we'd solve the corners basically. Anyway, we have a really interesting finish here where it uses each double turn once, funny enough. So what I did here, first I made this square, then I made this square, then I made this block, and then I did this, this, this. 6 move finish to the HGR. Now I couldn't find a way to shorten this, so I accepted the 25, but 24, 27, 25. I made it 25.33 meter 3. Overall, I'm really happy I was able to actually finally get to grips with how this works and the sort of ways you find HGRs. I've still got a lot to learn about domino reduction, and I've still got a lot to learn about FMC in general and the process behind which you manage time and find a lot of good solutions. I was very lucky to find these DRs and HGRs fairly quick into my attempts, but yeah, overall I'm very happy that I can find these and their finishes. And yeah, I mean, if you have any questions about domino reduction, you can message me. I can see if I can try to help. I'm not an expert yet, but I can try and give you any advice I can. So yeah, hopefully this was somewhat insightful into how I would find these solutions. And yeah, hopefully I can improve more and get a bit more FMC content out in the future.